So before we can just keep ourselves into the criteria of understanding the SQL and all the aspects of the practicality of a database. Now, few more things we need to just catch up very quickly now. Okay. Now, as a developer, okay, I just have few quick questions for you. As a RDBMS developer, what is your language you're going to use? SQL. Now, a database administrator in Oracle database will be using which language? A database administrator in Oracle will be using which language? He will also uses SQL only. Okay. Okay. Everybody who is working with databases, irrespective of he is an administrator or he is a application developer, if you want to interact and you want to communicate with the database, which is in relational model principles, which is in relational database management system principles, it has to definitely operate with only a single language called as SQL. Am I clear with you? But who is the person who is actually going and understanding the business? Who is the person who is actually going and understanding the business? They are basically called as functional consultants. Okay, these people are called as functional consultants, or they are also called as business analysts. Okay, in short form we generally call them as BA, or sometimes we call them as data analysts. Okay, whatever the criteria. Now these people, they will try to go and talk to the client, and they will try to understand the business requirements and the actual operational relations of the business, and they will come and talk to the technical teams that are sitting in your company, which where technical teams are nothing but you and your DBAs. So it is not compulsory and it is not mandatory that the functional consultants and the business analysts or data analysts, they should know the language called as SQL. Am I clear with you? Hello. I'm repeating once again. It is not mandatory that the functional consultants and the business analysts or data analysts should definitely know language called as SQL. If they know, it's good, but it's not compulsory. Now, client always explains his business in which language? Client always explains his business in which language? In the language of his business. Okay, it could be English, it could be any language in which he can basically understand his business. Therefore, client should know language like English is not a rule. So they generally explain the business within their language in which they are convenient. So we generally call that as business language. Am I clear? Now, whatever the client is explaining about the business, who should understand? The business analyst or functional consultant should understand. Am I correct? Now, let us try to understand few problems here. If a client is having a business which is being run by last 10 years, okay, the business is being run by last 10 years, and the client's business is basically spread over, say, like some 20 countries. Okay, the client is very huge client now. He's doing his business since last 10 years and his business is running in 10 different countries, let us say. Now, the total business process, what the client is explaining, logically involves this 10 years of the business with the 20 different countries. Do you agree with me? Now, functional consultant can take definitely some good amount of time to understand this business, which could be somewhere around 10-15 days. The discussions may continue or more than that, and he has to understand all the business requirements. Do you agree with me? Now, the 10-15 days of time, what the business consultant or the business analyst or functional consultant is spending, he has to come and explain this particular total business process to whom? Come on, come on. The developers and the DBA, that is technical team. Are you getting me? The technical team. Now, if you are a RDBMS developer or you are a DBA, whatever it is, your language is what? SQL. But the functional consultant or the business analyst language is what? The general language in which he feels comfortable. Now, whatever kind of business he has been understanding when he is describing, okay, whatever the, now actually functional consultant is not the businessman. Am I correct? He got all that information from whom? From the client. Now, how many times you think that your functional consultant or business consultant will explain that particular business exactly in the similar terminology and the standards what the client has explained to him when he is explaining you? Is it possible? Majority of the times it is impossible. Why? Because no two human beings may try to pass the conversation exactly in the same way. Am I correct? The best example is, suppose say like you said one information to your friend, man, okay? Suppose you told your friend one small information like, just now I saw a very simple accident where a person was going on the bike and he was about to hit the car. Okay, you said this information. And you said like the person who is on the bike fell down and he had some small scratches on the leg. This is what is information you gave to your friend. Now your friend will give this information to somebody else exactly what you said, or it could be something different. Your friend could have handed over this information as, just now I saw an accident where a bike which is going very fast at 110 kilometers per hour speed was hitting a car which was also in the same speed, and the person riding the bike fell down and he went into the air for 8 to 10 feet. Then he fell down and his leg was broken. Now that's how the things will go now. So when presenting the information passed from one person to another person, definitely the actual reality of that information can change a lot. Do you agree with me? So don't you think that by the time the actual developer is developing the software, the actual information given from the client could have changed a lot, because before anything is developed by the developer, there is a very great lot of hierarchy of people who are participating in the project. From person to person, when this information has moved away, don't you think that it could have gone far beyond our imagination by its actual originality? Now, can we do this kind of damage to the business information in real-time databases? No. Then I think your business consultant or functional consultant and the developers and the DBAs, they should have some common language. Do you agree with me? Such that both of them can understand the business exactly in the same way as it is explained by the client. And then that idea can pass on to the developers and they can develop all the objects of the particular business requirement, the actual components of the business requirement very perfectly, program them, and finally give it in the form of information to the end user. But the end user should feel that he is having exactly the perfect structure as it is to the requirement of the system. Am I correct? To balance all this particular process, we have something in industry which is called a system and data modeling concepts. I told you this itself is one big subject. Be clear, I'm making it very short and simple at the layman's level. As you go on catching up with my course, you will get more clarity and more visualization if you are concentrating. Now, for all this to happen, I just wanted to go with some information what I'm keeping in front of you, man. Okay. So I just wanted to check some information what client is giving. Just go on reading what is coming on your screen for some time. Okay. Just do that. So that is some information given by your client to your business consultant. Maybe it is in discussion or it is in the form of a paper or a document or anything. Let us not worry. Now, this information is reflecting which domain? Come on, come on. I want everybody to participate. So either some are saying healthcare and the other are saying hospital, somebody is saying polyclinic, but finally we know that it is something that is related to healthcare system. Do you agree with me? Now that is the fundamental thing we need to understand. Therefore, every developer should first understand when a business consultant is speaking with him, what is the domain of the business on which you are about to do your project. That's okay. Now, within this particular information, do you agree with me if I say that it contains objects of the business? This information contains the events of the business. This particular information contains the properties that are representing the objects of the business. This information is containing the cardinalities and rules with which the business is conducted. Now, separating all these things from this data and representing that in the form of objects of Oracle is the biggest challenge now. Are you getting me? Now, this is something as a domain you know very well, or by general common sense we can know this. Therefore, we are representing it. But just imagine this kind of information when it is in the form of thousands of pages. No human being can really sit and read and understand all these things. Do you agree with me? Imagine your business consultant is coming and is giving you a book of 1,000 pages and is saying that you please read this book and understand everything, then I'll come and explain. How many times you can think that you can read and understand that particular book effectively as exactly as your client has explained the business to your business consultant? These things are not that simple and these things are not that easy. Am I correct? Now, this is the area where we use the concept called as data modeling. Okay. the language between the developers and the business analysts or functional consultants is generally called as a language of data modeling. Am I clear with you? So when we say language, don't think that it is something like your computer science. Language means a medium of communication, man. Okay, language is a very general term. Okay, language is a very general term for medium of communication. Means if you want to communicate with me and if I want to communicate with you, whatever kind of methodology we are using, that is called as a language. Am I clear with you? So don't always try to think the language means it's English or it's Hindi or it's something XYZ. In between two people, whatever kind of methodology they are using, and by that methodology, whatever they are communicating, that is a language. You need to understand this. See, a child is born. A born child, does he has any language? A born child, does he has any language? Hello? Does he has any language for communication? Definitely yes. The simple language a child uses, a born child uses a language called as crying. Okay, crying is a language of the child, which the mother can understand very effectively under what circumstances the child is crying. So in between the mother and the child, the language of communication is crying. The other people will get irritated when the child cries, but the mother never gets irritated because she can understand that language. Am I clear with you? So try to understand what is exactly the same way. Data modeling is one kind of language between the developers and the functional consultants or business analysts. Am I clear with you? Therefore, every developer, when he's entering into the industry with experience, okay, every developer, when he's entering into the industry with experience, he should have one kind of ability. He should have one kind of ability. That ability is nothing but understand his business consultant or the functional consultant whenever he is describing and deriving the system of the business for development. So universally, they have designed some standards for data modeling as a language. Now, don't forget, don't really get worried about that standards now. But in very simple form, what is exactly meant by data model? Many times a first time fundamental beginner and a non-IT student will have a great confusion when he listens to this word called as data model in the industry. Data model, system model, process model, these are all some kind of terminology what you really and regularly listen in the industry. Am I clear? So what is exactly that criteria of the concept of data model? I just want you to participate. If you participate, you can understand very easily, man. Okay. On the layman side, we want clarity on what is data model. Now you are very quickly answering in the chat boxes such that I can guide you through the process. If you're not answering, you cannot understand what I'm speaking in the next few minutes. Now that's your headache if you're not discussing, okay? Now I just want you to follow along with me now. When you deal with the data model, the first question that arises is, okay, what is exactly meant by data model or what are data models? So in technical standardization, data models always define how the logical structure of a database is getting modeled. Am I clear with you? It just defines, every data model defines the logical structure with which your database is getting modeled for the sake of the business requirement. So in any big project or small project you are working, data models are fundamental entities to introduce abstraction of the DBMS. Means within your database management system software, what you are actually about to do, that state of what you're actually about to do is abstracted by a data model, where a data model can be understood by the developer, by the administrator, by the functional consultant, the business consultant, and the client, all together in a common way. Means all these people, because of the data model, they will have some common thinking about the business and its development. Am I clear with you? So every time you talk about data models, it defines how exactly the data is connected to each other. Means within the business, how your data is interconnected and how that particular data is getting processed and stored within the system. Okay. Within that particular system, how that particular piece of the data is getting processed and it is getting stored, your data models will define. Your data models will define. If I look into my data model, I'll get the clarity of what is happening in my business. Whatever the size of the business can be, that doesn't matter. Am I clear? So how exactly this data models will help in database application development? See, data models are not something like technical programming languages, but how these data models are helping in application development. So whenever you're trying to work with a data model, the first advantage is every data model helps in exploring the ideas and improving the understanding of the database design. Means technically, what is the way I should arrange my particular objects in the business and how I can understand that particular object in a more better way within my particular business, and how I can explore the new ideas to implement the rule of the requirement in the business. These all things your data models will fundamentally try to keep it in one single place. And the second biggest advantage is data model itself will be acting like document of your business data. So data model is used to document, define, and organize the database. Means if you are designing on data model, means it itself is a documentation. It will define your objects in the business very effectively. It will organize your objects in a very wonderful way so that everybody in the state of development or administration can understand what is happening in your entire project of your business application of the client. Data models will technically try to show how exactly your data structures within the given database are architected. Means your tables, your indexes, your sequences, your synonyms, these all kind of data structures that are representing your business, how exactly they are architected, it will technically try to show you. And every data model will show you how the components of the application and platform are interconnected. Means what is the interconnected logic between the components of your application and the platform on which you are developing. It shows how the components and the data of the given system are stored, accessed, and processed. All the three activities of your components of your business, it will try to make it very, very clear to you. So I think if a proper data model is designed, everybody can have clarity about the entire business architecture of the client's business environment or not. So what is the main purpose of the data model? What is the main purpose of the data model? The main purpose of the data model is to see that you can improve your communication in understanding your business data. Because of the data model, the communication between the developers, the administrators, and business consultants or functional consultants will increase. Because a data model is like a pictorial representation. It is just like a pictorial representation. And in English, we have one kind of saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So technically, your communicative standards will increase because of your data models. You'll get the confidence to talk to your seniors, communicate with your seniors more effectively if you are very strong in data models. The second thing is, a data model will help you in categorizing that particular business and the objects and the data in a more effective way. Am I clear? You can categorize your information or data more easily. Every data model will help you in describing the object and the process and the rule of the business in a more detailed way. Every data model will give you the best specification about your business and its operations. Every data model will help you in investigating for the new things, what you can do best in your particular business, what you're developing for the sake of the end user. Whatever you're investigating on that, you can start developing the new things, means you can start evolving the things to the next levels. Whatever you have evolved, that you can start analyzing once again and you can start putting them in the best way. And once your analyzation is completed, you can start imitating that application to the next level of the version very effectively. These are all the major benefits of your data modeling. Now, many times the students ask like, sir, only with SQL and PLSQL can I get my job? Definitely you can get your job, and I'm not denying it. But no student will ask very seriously, sir, after I get my job, to keep my job, what I should do? They don't ask that question. Getting a job is not difficult. In 45 minutes of that interview, if you are smart enough to answer the regularly asked questions, your offer letter will be released. But every day you have to participate in your project and you should show your intellectuality and skill to develop the project. For that, what I need, no student really raises a question. So SQL is one of the language. But along with SQL, you should understand what is the rule of RDBMS. What is the way the people will model RDBMS? These all things, I don't think any student is seriously concentrating and they are trying to adapt it. That's why I said data modeling, system analysis, and data modeling itself is one area of specialization. Many times students, they don't even know that such a kind of area is there. So when you design data models, what are the objectives behind the data model? Means if I'm developing a data model, there should be some reason for it. The main reason is data models are always designed to produce a model that fits a multitude of users. Multitude of users means we don't have any data model that is designed saying like this is a data model for C language, this is a data model for C++. Data models are not specific to any technology. They're not specific to any kind of architecture. They're not specific to any particular type of language. Data models are universal and they can be adapted for any language, any technology, and any architecture. The only thing the data model is representing is that business domain. Therefore, everybody in the project should have a knowledge of data models or not. Irrespective of their designation and their area of operation, they should know data models. I think you accept what I'm trying to say. So if anybody says that data models are designed in view of certain users, it's wrong. Okay, multitude of users. Second, every data model when we are developing, our main objective is we will try to develop the data model in such a way that it can be understood by the end user. Okay, the data model can be understood by the end user. Who is end user here? Come on, who is end user? Now, majority of the times our focus goes to is the client or businessman. Actually, end user is not always a client or businessman. Try to understand very carefully. See, I am your functional consultant and I am giving the data model to you. So you are a programmer. So as a programmer, you are my end user. Are you getting me? For my client, he is explaining the business and I am designing a data model, and the data model should be understood by my client. So to my client, I am the end user. For me, he is the end user. So don't give end user as general terminology that is always a client. Are you catching me? So when we develop a data model, we develop a data model in such a way that my end user can understand what it is. Now that end user can be any XYZ. And finally, every data model should contain sufficient details for the developer to build the database system. The main goal of the data model is to see that it is having sufficient amount of information using which the developer can always understand and he can build the database system very effectively. Trust me, in particularly one area, in specifically in one particular area of our chapters, I will show you very clearly how your data modelers will give you 80% of information for your programming that can be done with only 20%. Therefore, don't underestimate data modelers. They are very, very important people in the industry. As your experience goes on increasing, along with your skill, you need to definitely have certain amount of other skill sets also. I just get worried about only those students who are trying to keep 2+, 3+ years of experience and you want to come into the industry. You should catch every point of what I'm trying to say, which will make you understand what is your responsibility before you try to keep your leg into the industry as a database developers. Now, majority of the time, people have a wrong notion that data models are very difficult to understand. Now, according to RDBMS, whatever data models you develop, they are called as ER models. Okay, we call them as ER models, entity relationship models. In object-oriented implementations, we generally call them as UML, Unified Modeling Language Constructs. Okay, by technology perspective, what they are called, let us not worry. But data model is a common standardization. Do you agree with me? It can be everywhere. Now, I want some answers from you, gentlemen. Okay, the more you speak, the more clearly you'll understand. Okay, just watch certain things, what I'm keeping on my screen, and you should speak with me in the chat box. Now, can you just tell me this object, what I'm showing you on my screen is what? So I think 99% of the people will say it's an apple. Yes or no? But did I write anywhere it is an apple? Did I write anywhere it is an apple? No. So try to understand the simplicity of data modeling. I gave you a model of an object and automatically you started producing the data that is basically called as apple. So what I gave is a model, and behind that model you identified some data that is fundamentally called as apple. So behind every model there is some data. That is the reason it's called as data model. Am I clear with you? So a very good developer should have one kind of skill. If data is given to you, how many times you can convert the data into a model? Model means a pictorial representation. That is one skill. How many times, if a model is given to you, you can derive the data out of that. You can identify the data out of that. That is another kind of skill. Now I want one answer from you. Client is giving what to the functional consultant? Client is giving what to the functional consultant? He is giving data. Okay, client is giving data. Now functional consultant should make the data to be understood by the developers. Do you agree with me? So to make it easy, your functional consultant converts the data into what? Tell me, a model. He'll try to convert that into a model. And that model has to be understood by whom? Developer. Okay, the developer. And developer should derive out of that model what? Data once again. Are you getting me? To derive that particular data out of the model and represent it in database, we are using which language? SQL. Are you understanding the sequence of interconnectivity between the different actors in the project? Now, once the data is known to you, now I am asking you, please, can you explain me about Apple? Now, can you give me a few statements about Apple? Tell me. Apple is sweet. Okay. Dhananjaya is saying that. It is a fruit. Apples are red in color. An apple a day keeps doctor away. Very wonderful. So depending upon your domain knowledge, I think you can give the data. Do you agree with me? So when a model is given to you, out of the model, how much data you can pick up? Okay, how much data you can pick up? It depends upon that particular domain knowledge. Remember that. Therefore, every developer should have some amount of knowledge to the business on which his project is depending. Am I clear? So just watch when how we will describe and will derive the data out of it. So I'm saying apple is a fruit. Then I'm basically trying to say the apple will be in red color. Now I'm saying apple is juicy and having rich vitamins. And I'm saying an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Now apples are generally raised in cold climate. In this way, we can describe much lot of information out of the apple or not. So are you understanding what is exactly meant by data model? Am I clear with you? So what you are trying to derive here is data depending upon the construct of the model given to you. So this is your model, which is fundamentally getting represented by data. So data models, they make your ideological thinking easier. Am I correct? And because it is in pictorial format, understanding the data is more easy when it is in a picture form or not. Hello. Just be very clear. Okay. Let us just try to do one more level. Now, whatever image you're getting on my screen, what is this image? Can you tell me what is this particular object? Apple once again. Now, if I'm just extending this particular object, now what is that object? Can you tell me? Pomegranate. So when a small change is done upon the existing object, don't you think that the whole lot of the data is changing now? Am I correct? So that's where we said data models will make you think, it will make you explore your ideas and give you some new data and new analysis can be done. Now, if I'm asking you any data out of this, will you give the same data what we had previously? So whenever your model is changing, don't you think that your data is also changing? Is not your idea of understanding that particular data along with that model is definitely changing? So pomegranate is a fruit. So from one model to another model, there may be some kind of commonality. But everything will be same is not a rule, because both are not same models. So as your experience is increasing, technically try to understand the way how you should be more conceptual to participate in your projects and derive the solutions. Are you understanding that conceptual mechanism of data model? Now, whether it is ER model or UML model or anything, let us not worry. But the general idea of data model, are you catching up? Now, just one more level to make us comfortable. Now, can you tell me what is this object representing? Come on, come on. Cat. Now, did you see cat anytime smiling like that, man? No. But I think this was a model that is given into our brain when we are in the schools at the KG level. Yes or no? And that model is so powerful. What your teacher gave you has become part of your brain. And whenever that shape comes, whenever that particular shape comes, your mind says it is cat only. That's the power of the model. Therefore, once you understand any model, that model will fit in your brain. Okay, that model will fit in your brain, and the information and the data behind that model will also be part of your brain. That's the power of the data models. Am I clear with you? A human being cannot remember the total data. No human being can remember the total data. But once you put the model into the brain of the human being, he can remember the whole data. Am I clear? Now, if I'm asking you what is the data you can give me, now I think you can produce the data now. So, cat is a pet animal. Cats have good vision in nights. Cats can walk very silently without noise. Cats can be found with various number of colors. And you're saying that cats, if not kept clean, can spread diseases. So how much information you give or how much data you can produce on that model, is it not depending upon the domain knowledge of that particular model, what you are really associated with? There were everybody who's keeping projects, I want the point to be very clear to them. When you are referring to your particular projects, every project you said you have done in your resume should be like a model in your brain, such that you can produce that model to your interviewers when you're sitting in the interview rooms. Am I clear with you? Just once again, can you just tell me this object is representing what? A man, okay? A man. Or you can say it's a boy. But technically, did we really represent any gender here? No. But I think our mindset directly went that it is a gender of male. That's what is the power of your model, man. That's what the power of this is called describing. Is it not describing and it is specifying that this object of the model is a male? Are you getting me? So model has a power of describing and specifying and categorizing that particular data. Now, I just want to concentrate once again where I'm just producing the object once again. Now let me say that I'm making a small variation in this particular piece of the model. Now will you say this is once again a man or a boy? No. Immediately we started separating and specifying and categorizing this object to be a girl or female. Now you were able to understand all these models and you're able to produce the data out of these models only because you are aware of the domain of these models. Am I clear with you? The same way, many times students, when they're joining my Oracle, they ask me, sir, I'm a mechanical graduate. Can I understand software industry and IT technologies? Sir, I'm electrical engineer. Can I understand this? See, until you do not participate and you do not try to involve, you cannot understand. So I can always explain. I can always make you feel the confidence. I can make you really get through the process. But finally, your participation, concentration, and practice will make you understand and get through the technology and develop applications in real time. Am I clear with you? So day by day, you have to make yourself convenient to understand the way the things are happening. So in your industry, you like or you do not like. Let me make my points very clear. You like or you do not like, your seniors will speak with you in the concept of data models. Data model doesn't mean that these kind of apples and these kind of cat-like pictures. We have one special kind of model when we are database developers, and we call that model as ER model, okay, entity relationship model. So when they are explaining the ER model, you should be in a position to understand your entire business and its operational executional standards. Am I clear with you? Am I clear with you? So this makes us one step more nearer to start with the construct and composition of the processment. Be very, very clear about this. It technically makes a fundamental difference. Now, I think we are very, very nearer to make the things go with the construct and composition of accessibility now. And technically get ourselves involved with what exactly we should do with our database management system software. That is nothing but your Oracle, and then utilize a language called as SQL very effectively. So before I kickstart the process and make the things happen, now it's time, I think we should understand what is exactly meant by the criteria of the RDBMS. But we have been discussing about it. But what are the relational database properties? If you say you're working with any relational database, now what are exactly the properties of a relational database? The first thing you should remember, anywhere in the world you learn any relational database management system software, it should be accessed and modified by executing one simple language called as SQL, structured query language statements. Either I am working, you are working, or your database administrator is working, or any 30 or 40 years experienced person is working in relational databases. We all will be using one common language called as what? SQL. Clear? So you learn your SQL very effectively. You can really do wonders. You can really do wonders. Now that's where you're sitting in these sessions, and that's where I'm in contract with you. And your language called as SQL will always try to work with the data in the form of collected in tables. So relational database should contain a collection of tables with no physical pointers. You take any RDBMS in the world, it is always designed to have data in the form of tables. And these tables will never expose any physical pointers. Physical pointers means you go back and recollect in one of the class I showed you a circle where your Oracle database is there, port number, table spaces. All this is happening with the reference of the internal architecture. You don't know physically where the data is physically existing, the address to the location where the table is existing. All RDBMS will work in the same style. And every relational database will use a set of operators. And these operators are common universally. Therefore, in one RDBMS software, if you learn operators, these operators will be common almost all by 98% in every RDBMS technology you go. And when you say you are working with relational database, one of the properties need not specify the access route to the tables and data. Means you don't need to tell that your table is in C drive, D drive. This kind of path and physical construct to the location where that particular data is there, we never ever specify that. And there is no need at any point of time to identify how your data is arranged and organized physically. Am I clear with you? There is no way you need to identify how the data is getting arranged physically. Means within your hard disk, your data is arranged in which way, first record first, last record last. Nothing you need to know. Your job is to just connect, communicate with a language called as SQL and start working. Now, if you're a non-technical student, don't you think that the things are looking and they are making us feel they are easy or not? Then how to communicate with RDBMS? How I should communicate with RDBMS? To communicate with RDBMS, you need only one simple single language called as SQL. So structured query language is the only means to communicate with RDBMS. Therefore, if you are coming into the IT industry saying that you want to be a database developer, you will be definitely working in relational database management system principles. Therefore, you like or you do not like, you should know one language called as SQL. Be very clear. Therefore, once the client is configured with the database client software, SQL is always used to contact the server. Sir, I want to contact my server. You don't need to know any TCP/IP programming and all this network programming. Your job is to pull your keyboard, start your client software that is given by your particular DBA. And then once the client software is activated, it is automatically connected to your server anywhere in the world. Your server is in the hell or heaven, that doesn't matter. Automatically it gets connected to that location, and your language to communicate with your server is SQL. So everybody in the world, including you, me, and anybody, if we are database developers, we are always working on one universal language called as what? SQL. So if everybody is learning the same language, then how exactly the industry will confirm that who is the best SQL developer? That's where it is a challenge now. Therefore, along with you, another 10 friends are also learning database somewhere else, man. Your luck or bad luck, you are learning database from me. Your friend's luck or bad luck is learning from somewhere else. Both of you will keep the same thing in your resumes, and you will try to go to your interviews. And when you sit there, finally, who gets selected? That is what is the final target for us now. It may be looking exaggeration, but trust me, you are catching every point what I'm trying to speak in my class as it is, and you're putting that into the practice very effectively. I can promise you, if you're not going anywhere less than the instructions what I give you in the class, and you're following every requirement of the practice what I tell you to do it perfectly the way I'm expecting from you, listening to your sessions with all the concentration and consciousness, those people, you always keep it in your mind, your first interview is the last interview. And once you get your job, everybody can get a job, but you people are not only going to get your job, you'll keep your job with highest confidence for a minimum of 3 years, and to the maximum of 5 to any number of years you can handle your job without any problem. Whatever kind of project you are participating, you just don't worry. And if you are seriously following me the way I am instructing you, I can promise you, you can work at par with experience and confidence to your seniors who are already there in the industry since 3 to 4 years. And sometimes, trust me, you could be working more better than them, and they will be highly in confusion. How come you can do certain things much better than those people? But none of these things are going to happen like a magic. You have to follow my instructions very seriously. And if I say from today onwards, you should practice your Oracle for 4 hours, you should practice. If I say from today onwards, you need to practice your Oracle for 6 hours, you have to practice. No additional question should be raised. You seriously think of having a great career, and you try to be having a wonderful lifestyle with a very loving profession that you can take in the IT industry. It's very hard to believe, but you have to keep faith on me. You just leave the whole consciousness and concentration into my hands, and I'm going to put the path properly towards the way you can get into your career into the IT industry and stay there permanently for years together. Now, I think we are kickstarting the ball now. Okay, we are just kicking the ball to reach to the goal. Every day we will roll the ball in different number of directions with strategy to understand how best we can work with this database. So tomorrow when I'm connecting with you, I'll connect with you to understand what are the generic features of structured query language. If we say there is SQL, what are the generic features? All SQL means Oracle's SQL, IBM's SQL, your Microsoft's SQL, MySQL. In this way, there are many number of vendors and brands that are existing in the market for SQL. These all people will develop SQL with some general standards. Those generic features are always there. We'll look into that, and then we'll move into the process. In 1 or 2 classes, I'll be getting into the practical side of the process or implementation. Okay. Just let us see what is waiting for us in the next 24 hours. Thank you very much. Once again with you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself.